Hi, I'm Tiffany Oshinsky, and this is Serving Pancakes with League One Volleyball. Over the next few episodes, we're going to follow Team USA's quest for gold at the Paris Olympics while also talking with talented people in and around volleyball and women's sports. Today's episode features two unique perspectives from the world of volleyball, Emily Ehman and Juliann Faucette. Emily played libero at Northwestern between 2016 and 2019. However, she always knew she wanted to work in sports media. So she pursued journalism while playing for the Wildcats and is now the face of women's volleyball at the Big Ten Network. She also covers the professional and international game and contributes to volleyballmag.com and ESPN. Juliann is a former three-time All-American at the University of Texas, having played from 2007 to 2010. She's played professionally overseas in Europe and China and was a member of the U.S. women's national team. In 2016, Juliann pursued a career as a recording artist and published an EP, then launched a podcast in 2019. Now she's coming back to Texas as a member of LOVB Austin and as the Longhorns player development consultant. Juliann, Emily, welcome to Serving Pancakes. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Oh, so excited to be here, especially alongside Juliann. I mean, the list of accomplishments just goes on and on. This is awesome.
Right? I mean, Juliann, your career has spanned multiple years. You've seen everything. You've traveled the world to play. So what has it been like for you to kind of take this break from volleyball? Now you're coming back.
Yeah, so the break initially was to have children, and I thought I was going to be finished with volleyball, but lo and behold, here I am. I had my son in 2020, so during COVID, and during that time, I got asked to come out of retirement and play in Italy, and so it was kind of a weird year, obviously, and I decided that it would be really cool. So I was 3 months postpartum when I got the contract, 6 months postpartum when I traveled to Italy. And so it was definitely a journey, something that was probably the most difficult thing I had done in the time that I've played volleyball. I've come back from injury, but coming back after having a baby mentally and physically is really difficult. So played the season, felt like by the end of the season I was in a really good place physically, but I just felt like the toll of taking your family overseas with a child, with a team or leagues that maybe don't have as much support and even knowledge of how to help moms, especially someone who is a first-time mom. I just was like, I don't want to do that anymore. So despite being in shape and feeling like I could continue playing, I decided to step away again. And then this opportunity with LOVB came along. I had just had my twins, who are now 1. And so, I was just talking with some people at LOVB, and we decided that we would give it a try. I would see if I could get in shape and see how my body felt. And I got to a place where I was like, I feel really good. And it's obviously a really exciting time for the sport of volleyball, having this new league in America, being able to stay at home in Austin, where I live, where my family and friends all are. And so it just was a no-brainer for me to try. And I sent in some film and got a contract literally that same week. So I'm really stoked.
That's amazing. Girl, I have seen your workout videos on Instagram and I have 2 kids, didn't have twins, but doing that after having 2 twins, your body and what you can do, I'm so amazed. I mean, that is absolute mom power, girl power,
Thank you.
Absolute dominance.
It's definitely been a journey and super hard, but during my pregnancy, I stayed pretty physical. And I was in the gym and I lifted a lot, which was different from my first pregnancy. I did a lot of yoga and breath work, which is great. But this pregnancy, I wanted to stay strong. And I feel like that was a game changer in coming back to playing shape.
Mm-hmm. For sure. And Emily, I mean, you've been covering the sport now on camera, online. What has changed since you graduated? Because I feel like even though you graduated in 2019, seeing Juliann as a mom coming back to play, right? That's absolutely amazing. Just the growth of the sport. What have you seen in these few years since you've graduated college?
Oh, I mean, the growth of the sport has been exponential. I think back to when I was in college and we were just happy to have like a beat reporter or a student writer at a game, or happy that a game was maybe on TV. There were only about, 25, 30 matches back then on TV, at least on Big Ten Network, and, a far few less on ESPN platforms and beyond. But I just can't believe how far it's come. There's more matches on TV than ever before. The viewership has skyrocketed every year among every single network. And then attendance records, we're seeing them shattered every single year. It feels like schools themselves individually are also shattering them every single week, it seems. So the sport is growing so fast. Of course, at the college game, and you look at high school, now it's one of the most participated in women's sports at the high school level. And then professionally, I think there's a lot more outlets that people are realizing that professional volleyball is really fun. There's platforms like Volleyball World that you can watch, some of the best leagues in the world. You can also watch a lot of these summer tournaments now that you were never able to watch before. So while the sport's growing, it's been really fun because it's been growing at every single level. It hasn't just been the college game. It really has been professionally too. And to be honest, a really big part of that was because the Team USA women's indoor team won gold in Tokyo. And that really helped the sport get a lot of eyeballs on it for maybe people that weren't volleyball fans before. But the cool thing about volleyball is once you turn it on TV, maybe you just stumble upon it. Maybe you're a casual fan or had never watched before. It's really hard to turn off because of how fast paced it is. There's not a lot of breaks. So once you have that game on, it viewers stick to it because it's so fun to watch. And we've seen that grow, year over year. And it's been really, for me, just so fun to be a part of that aspect of it on the other side of it.
Yeah, for sure. Well, let's talk about the Olympics because, obviously the U.S. women won gold in Tokyo, and now we have just beaten France to move on to the knockout round, the quarterfinals. And when they played France, it was 2 nail biters, 29-27 in set 1 and set 2, and then 20-25 in set 3. So watching the first 2 games, what was going through your minds? Go ahead, Juliann, you start.
Yeah, I mean, obviously France being the home team, the host country, it's tough. The environment, walking into that environment, everybody there is pretty much rooting for France. Despite them not coming out of pool play, it didn't matter. They had nothing to lose. So that's a team that's scary to beat, is when, they've got the crowd behind their back and they don't have anything to lose anymore. So they played free. And they played lights out. And, there was times in the match where you felt like, oh, okay, we're good. USA's got this. But then they come back with an ace, tough serves. We couldn't get in system a lot of the time. And I think that really hinders us because our middles are amazing. So if we can't use our middles, then that puts a lot of pressure on our pin hitters. And I think Annie Drews did an incredible job taking some really big swings out of system. But I just think that France put that pressure on. So those first 2 sets, I'm so glad we were able to pull it out because I know we needed just to win 1 set to come out of pool play. But for sure, when you go into a match like that, as Team USA, knowing what's at stake, you just want to win and you want to win well. And so to be able to sweep that match, that's huge. They can go into quarterfinals with confidence.
Yeah, I think you put it best. At the end of the day, a win is a win, and advancing to the quarterfinals is the most important piece. Headed into this match, all the pressure was on USA. France literally had nothing to lose. They had not won a set up until this point during pool play through their first 2 matches. USA only needed 1 set to advance, but really this match was kind of about getting consistency in their lineup. We've seen so many changes, especially at the outside position throughout this entire tournament so far, which is also consistent from what we saw from Team USA all summer, rotating lineups nearly every single game during the VNL. So this was a really good opportunity for the U.S. to come in and kind of thump France, which didn't happen. Of course, we saw those 29-27 first and second set wins, but it was definitely a nail biter. I feel like my heart couldn't take it. And watching that early in the morning, I'm like, come on, guys, we already know you can fight. We saw it against Serbia. You don't need to do it against France. But I will say, I think it was fun to watch just because this team is always kind of keeping us guessing. I think at this point in the tournament, not very great position to be in to keep guessing like what rotations we're going to use, who's going to play. But Karch is a heck of a coach, and he knows better than anyone. So I think when we head into quarterfinals, he's going to start the lineup that he feels most confident with. To me, I'm looking at the outsides and who gets that start, because right now it could be really any combination of the four.
And so, Juliann, you played at this profession, like the international level. Emily, you've covered it. You've seen this before. Do you think that because France didn't win any sets going to this game, the U.S. sort of put their guard down? Or do you think it was just one of those where, as you said, Emily, like France had nothing to lose, so they just came out guns blazing?
I think USA knew they had to have a really good match going into the quarterfinals. So I think that there was no guard that came down. I think it was more the pressure of the crowd and knowing like, okay, this is a must win so that we can advance. And also the pool that they're in is difficult. China and Serbia are playing now. So that's going to decide who gets first and second and third place in the pool. And so I think that's the really important thing, knowing going into a match like this, there's a lot of unknowns, and all you have to do as Team USA is win this as easily and as best as you can. And they did their job. They came away with a sweep, even though it was tight in those first two sets. I think what Emily was saying about the outsides, it's difficult to know going into this next match that they're going to have which outsides that they're going to use. But the great thing is that everyone's proven that they can do what it takes to get the job done. And so you have two solid veterans in Kelsey and Jordan that are going to be super great at passing. They're going to handle the ball well. They're going to be crafty when it comes to the swings. And then you have Avery and Catherine who are hammering the ball and can put the ball away when needed. So it's going to be match by match what USA needs. And so going in, whoever they draw is what kind of it's going to come down to. And I think Karch and the staff are going to make the right decisions, but even throughout that match, changes are going to happen. And I think that's the beauty of our team, is that we're stacked. We have options. And so it's really cool to be able to see that they can pull out getting to the quarters with such a difficult pool. And then exciting to see what happens next.
Juliann, you mentioned kind of how good this pool is, and really just across the board, this is the deepest Olympics that we've ever seen, just in terms of talent. There are so many teams right now that will be in contention for a gold medal that could absolutely win. You think of the top teams like Italy or like a Serbia should be, but you never know what's going to happen. And Team USA drew this pool. And honestly, if they were anywhere else, it would have been just as hard, which is crazy to think about when you're facing a Serbia team that's that good and a China team that's that good. But US came into this one, again, they had all the pressure. They knew this was a great opportunity for them to try to get a good win as quickly as possible, to shore up that lineup, and then to get rest and go home, because you only have, potentially less than 48 hours until your quarterfinal match. So they had a lot of pressure on them. I think you could see it through those first two sets. They were very tight, looked a little bit nervous. We saw defensive miscues that we don't normally see from this team, but that'll happen when you have players playing next to each other who haven't had a lot of time to practice. And then, of course, some players coming back from injury who took a lot of time off, like Jordan Poulter, who's been at the setting position. I think the better ball control they have, the better position they'll be in, because she looks good, but at the end of the day, you don't want to make her run as much as possible, because we've already seen one setter go down with Lauren Carlini. We don't need another one to go down too.
Yeah, for sure. The one thing I'm loving about this team right now is that we are kind of seeing both the old guard and the new guard come in with, Avery Skinner, Catherine Plummer coming in as the outside hitters. And then again, Jordan Larson and Jordan Larson and, oh my God, why is Kelsey Robinson Cook? Let me say that again so I sound a little more coming in with Jordan Larson and Kelsey Robinson Cook. And I feel like, there's also these two different sides of the team when, depending on who is in as outside hitter, right? Avery Skinner and Catherine Plummer, you get this hard hitting, insane, powerful offense. With Jordan and Kelsey, you get that ball control that that they really needed, especially in this match against France, with the serve receive, where they were struggling a little, giving up, 5 points at a time in both those first two sets. I feel like seeing how these two teams can handle and how Karch uses them depending on the situation is just fascinating to watch. And I feel like a lot of people don't realize what's happening when those two, they make that switch.
Yeah, I mean, it's an important distinction when you have two heavy hitters like Plummer and Skinner who, can go in and just absolutely rip a ball. But at the end of the day, you need ball control. And, a lot of that is because they're veterans, with Kelsey and Jordan, being toward the tail end of their career. They've had, 20 years to practice passing, where Skinner and Plummer, they're mid-20s, and it just takes time to get that ball control down. So at the end of the day, I think we're going to find out whether this team values ball control more, or if they need some hitters to put the ball down. And and both totally make sense. Maybe you have some kind of a balance between them. We saw what Plummer and Kelsey could do, and for Conegliano last winter rather, they were incredible for that team. So that's a combination I would like to see, but it's also a little bit late in the tournament to start throwing out combinations. So I'm interested to see it. We'll see what Karch comes up with.
Yeah, I agree. I think you could really do any combo here. You could put one big hitter in, and you could have one ball control player in, kind of balancing that. What we've seen is he's double subbed both of them, kind of had Kelsey and Jordan together, and then Avery and Catherine together going in, which I would also love to see a little bit of combo of both just to get that balance. But, they know best, and they know kind of the chemistry of the team and what's worked in practice. So I just think it's really cool that you can have any one of those combinations with a team. It means that the depth is big and wide, and we're just, rallying going into this. And like Emily said, this is the deepest, toughest Olympics in volleyball that I've ever seen. And, I've been watching it since 2004, when I started playing, and, pining for my first Olympics, which I didn't ever make, but, being on the national team and knowing kind of each year there's like 2 or 3 that are killer teams, and then the rest you can kind of, gauge that we can get past them. But this year it's insane. I mean, there's probably 6 teams that could take the podium, take the top spot. And so I just think that the depth that we have is helpful in going into that. You've seen such an up and down roller coaster with this team, but we just don't know how hard it really is out there. Tokyo didn't have any fans. Now you've got fans in the stands, and it's a big crowd, and everyone's excited, and everyone loves volleyball. And, the international game of volleyball is popular. So people know the sport. They're rooting for all these different teams. And, we saw Italy crush Turkey. What? That's crazy. So, it's just all of these different things happening within the game. And so to make it to where we are now going in, I think, fresh start, everyone's 0-0 at this point. And you use what you got. I think it's cool. It may not be great that we're not going into this next match kind of knowing what lineup that we'll go with, but it's also great that we've seen the depth and that we've seen the options that we have, so that we know there's no fear in subbing. I think Karch is knowing that by now. He's making those subs. I think the double sub is doing fantastic. Most of the time they go in, and Jordan Thompson and Micah Hancock right now are, bringing points to the board when they sub. And so that's a huge factor too. So you just have so many options in our team.
It's important to be deep, especially in an Olympic pool that's this deep. You need to have a deep roster. You only get 12 on that roster, so you need to make sure that everyone's ready to go.
Yeah, and not only that, but it was a huge, so much credit to Karch for adding Micah Hancock as that one of the alternates, because with Lauren injuring her back, and him being able to bring in Micah is like clutch coaching right there. Now, Juliann, because you were on the U.S. women's national team back when you played, how hard is it to make this team?
Oh my gosh, it's hard. Even to be in the gym as one of the top 24 or 30 girls down to the last, roster cut is crazy. So, it's intense, and you start at a beginning of a quad. So you're going 4 years, every summer, hoping to stay in the gym. That's literally the goal of being on the U.S. national team, because there's so much talent coming out of college. But also the veterans are experienced and they've been there before. So there's just this combination of fresh talent and a combination of veteran badasses that you just have to be able to stay in the gym. And so, the girls up until the last month before the Olympics are hoping to be on that roster, and could have been. That's the thing. I would say that not a lot of countries have the talent that we do in volleyball to be able to decide at the last minute who's going to the Olympics. We had girls that got cut that easily could be there right now with their talent and their experience. And so it's tough. And to have been a part of that, and, looking back on my career, I had an amazing experience, and I would say unique opportunity to be a part of that. as hard as it hurts when you're cut from a roster or even just from the national team in general and you step away from that, it just creates such a resilience in you. And also, too, you're always a part of that. Every quad that goes through, the girls that have been in the gym since 2021 to now that aren't at the Olympics are a part of that. They put in the work, they put in the time, and they're supporting USA despite not making that Olympic roster. And that's what it takes. That's why we won gold in 2020, 2021, because, we have that depth and we have that support and we're pushing each other day in and day out in that gym. That gym is brutal. Numbers matter. And, every day that you walk in there, you have to be prepared. And so that mental training too comes with it. And I think that's why USA is where they're at.
For sure. And Emily, I was looking at the U.S. women's roster, and if you include Micah Hancock with the starting 12, since, she's playing right now with Lauren being an alternate from that switch, but 9 of them are Big Ten graduates, Big Ten alums. Do you play almost all of those? I know, like, Jordan Larson's, a little older, so you probably didn't play her, but do you remember playing some of these women and covering them as a reporter?
Yeah, well, I remember playing against them, and I can say it wasn't very fun. They normally just took care of us pretty quickly. And I will say our team wasn't like amazing, but man, when you're going up against a Haley Washington and Micah Hancock on the other side, you're like, well, this is going to be fun. I can't wait to go home in an hour and a half. No, they were incredible. I mean, it's crazy now thinking back to, when we would play against some of these opponents, and you just kind of knew that they were going to be national team, if not Olympic players. And thinking back, it's like, I can't believe that I even had the opportunity to play against them and be like pretty scared while I was doing it. But, it's pretty cool looking back now on the other side of it, seeing the personalities behind the players, because obviously, when you're scouting them and their names, but at the end of the day, they're just a number and they're a scout to you. On the other side of it, it's been really fun to connect the dots of, okay, what makes this player so good and what are they like off the court and how does that feed into what's happening on the court? So I love being on this side of it, and also thinking back to having played against quite a few of them, the differences of what I see now versus then.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like, watching as a spectator these Olympics and seeing Haley Washington or Chiaka just crush the ball, because I was a libero too, and I'm like, I don't know if I would ever be able to dig that ball.
No, no, absolutely not. I've seen some, like, even, if you haven't watched some non-US matches, but if you've been watching like Italy or Turkey or any of those teams with the crazy opposites they have, like, I'm looking at the ball going up there, and if there's a hole in the block, or say, God forbid, they have an open net, as a back row player, personally, I'm like, I'm putting a helmet on and running the other way. Absolutely not. I want no part of that.
For sure. Oh my gosh. And like, you talking about who these women are as people that you're able to, establish now as a reporter. I feel like, Juliann, you're kind of doing that too, being this player development coach and working with younger girls who are learning. So what's that experience like?
Yeah, so I actually haven't started yet, but I've been around the program for quite a while. And, I recently moved back to Austin. Recently, I would say it's been 3.5 years. And so ever since I've been back in Austin, I step into practices and, hang out with Jared and the staff. And, it's really cool to see the level and just the program that Jared has built since I've been there. And so I'm really looking forward to being a resource and a mentor to these girls, especially the new ones. The ones that are on the tail end of their college career may not need it as much. They know they've been through it. They've won 2 championships at point. But it's going to be more of mentorship, helping them with NIL, just taking them out to coffee and asking them what they need, somebody that they can talk to. Jared does a really good job of making sure that there is a woman on staff all the time. We have 3 brilliant men who, are great assistants, fantastic volleyball nerds. Eric Sullivan's at the Olympics on the men's side right now, helping them out. So, the staff is stacked, and, they're men and they're awesome, but sometimes the girls just need someone to talk to. And so to be somebody that can help them, who's walked through it, who's done it, who's been coached by Jarrett, I'm happy to help in any way. I know what it's like. And so I'm excited to just lend that experience and wisdom to them, and then help on the volleyball side too. Sometimes it's little cues that can help younger girls, especially coming into college, who just, they're so raw, they're so talented, they're eager to learn. So just sometimes just a small little cue that maybe helped me back when I was in college or beginning pro. And so I'm super excited to be back with Texas. It's kind of a full circle moment with Love, Austin, being back at Texas now on staff. It's like wild what my career has become since starting playing. So
I think the thing I love too about watching these women play and hearing what you're doing and being part of players, and you, Emily, like working with these women and getting to tell their stories and introducing them to people, is that we're, these are not just players, right? I feel like volleyball has been such a sport where, because it's so team focused, you don't really know the individual players that much. But, with NIL, with the Big Ten Network, which I think was in the forefront of really getting women's volleyball out on television so that people could watch it more and increase its popularity and visibility, I feel like seeing all of this has really helped this younger generation be like, I want to be like Juliann Faucette. I want to be, Jordan Larson. I want to be Chiaka. What were they calling her? Chiaka Oblako, because she was just dominating and blocking on the court, which I love. I mean, I feel like this opportunity to see these women and to know who they are is so huge that this sport hasn't had before.
It's awesome. And it's coming from a lot of different avenues. Of course, you have more games on TV. So naturally, you're watching these players more and hearing about them more. But you mentioned NIL and really social media in general. That's kind of where we're getting to know these players. Yes, of course, it's coverage from the TV side. And, now reporters that maybe have never covered volleyball before coming in and writing articles about them and seeing these stories. But at the end of the day, a lot of it really is social media, and a lot of these players getting on it and they're able to tell their stories. And, the next generation can see them in a different light that isn't just, with the number on their chest. It's, when they're off hanging out with their friends, or they're at home doing a get ready with me or whatever it is. It's been so fun to watch, especially the generation that's now in college, get that recognition that so many players that came before them, wanted and craved and would do anything for. It's been so fun to see that happen. And then also the response from the players. I even think back to a few years ago where it was, you were kind of hesitant when media would come in. You obviously really welcomed it and wanted it, but there was this stigma that, they were trying to get you or, have some kind of story come out. But now it's like, these players love it. They're so excited every time we're in the gym with them, and, everyone wants to talk to us and get their story out there. So that part of it has been fun too, not only to tell the stories, but to have the athletes really want that and be so open to it has been fun, because it's not the same for other sports. I can tell you that much.
So going back to the match against France real quick, because, we talked about the 29-27 matches, sets, which were intense and stressful as fans to watch. But, that third match, 25-20, a little more what we were expecting from the U.S. So overall, what impressed you ladies about this team in this match?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was resiliency. In those big moments, we're seeing this team come through. We saw it against Serbia during that second matchup in pool play, and we saw it again. During that second set, U.S. fended off multiple France set points to eventually get the set. But I think the biggest thing for me is, can we limit runs? When we get stuck in rotations, are we able to get out of it quicker? We need to get better on the passing front to not allow 5-point runs like we did in set one, or 7-point runs like happened in set two. We got to be able to close a match.
Yeah, I agree. I think overall, going forward, it's not letting those runs go. We had big leads in those first two sets, and even in the third set, you saw a little bit when someone would go back to serve, maybe 1 or 2 points go by. And so it's really about stopping the bleeding as soon as possible, knowing what to do. Harch always says, we know what to do every time out. He would say that even when I was playing. We know what we need to do. And it's basically, we just need to get a pass and we need to side out. Because when we have that pass, we can do us, and that's run our offense. I'd love to see a little more back row swings coming out of the back, because I think that it's super effective, but we have to be able to pass. I do think our transition game can also get a little bit better. There was a little hesitancy on defense this match, but I saw from Serbia and China, we were digging a lot of balls, but then we weren't getting good swings out of those digs. And so to be able to transition, I always say as a coach, I've coached at the high school level for a little while now. I always say defense wins games, but defense transition is where it's at. Like, you have to score points off of defense. You can't just get the ball up and then free ball it. Not at this level. So we've got to get really good swings. And I think I'd love to see, especially when Catherine and Avery are in, a little more back row out of the pipe. And then obviously Annie Drew's going from the right side in the back. I think that could really help us and be more effective in these next few games. And we're going to need it. We need everyone on deck at this point. And I think that's what we've seen. I think that's what the major takeaways are, especially from this last match, is that we need everyone. You know, subbing Kelsey and Jordan in that second set at the last second, and then they start the third set and they finish it. And so it's just showing that anyone can play and anyone can do it and anyone can get the job done. Now we just need to get some consistency, stop those runs, and play our game.
So slight tangent from this third set, but Karch called a challenge in the middle of a rally, which I did not realize was a thing actually until I saw it. How annoying or frustrating is it when you're in the middle of an intense rally to all of a sudden have it just be stopped because your coach called the challenge?
So there's some plays that you have to call the challenge in the middle of the play. For example, if you think a ball is down, say it's a pancake that you might have thought was down, you have to call that right away. You're not able to call that at the end of the point. So that's something that, you know, of course it's frustrating, but as a coach, you have to do it. Otherwise, you know, you give up potentially losing that point when you could have won it on a missed call.
Makes perfect sense. I'm still just, when I was watching, I was like, whoa, wait, what? Like, because I think it took a while before he called that challenge. There was like a back and forth, maybe like 4 times before it called. I was like, oh my God, can you imagine putting all that effort in? And then all of a sudden it's like, he can't finish the point.
It's, you know, if you've only watched the college game too, there's a lot of rules that are different. So it's, you know, it's something that I think, you know, Paul Salim and Kevin have done a good job of explaining the rules, that how they are different, because if you haven't watched a professional game, you might be like, well, what the heck was that? You can't do that. So yeah, there's some discrepancies and differences just in, you know, challenge plays, some rule things. But for the most part, I think, you know, the commentators are doing a pretty good job of explaining it.
For sure. So now, like we said earlier, the U.S. is moving on to the quarterfinals, which is very exciting. We're not sure who they're playing yet at the time of this recording, but because there are still matches going on. But who do you think? I know that you said that there are 6 teams that are like the top of the top, but who do you think will be the biggest challenge for Team USA if they get paired with them in the quarterfinals?
I think Italy is a team to beat. They just won the VNL. I think they are the best team in the field right now. You know, we've seen them kind of go up and down, but they just had a pretty good thumping of Turkey earlier today. And I don't know if that's a team that we match up particularly well with. They have really incredible middles that I think both Washington and Abogu could handle if they play their best. But man, they've got 2 up front that are just absolutely incredible. And then they have who I think is the best player in the world in Paola Oganu. She's a right side. She touches 11-4. So even if you have Plummer lined up against her, she's probably going to go right over her. We saw her do it all summer. We've seen her do it for years now. You know, she's just 25, but she's an absolute rock star. You know, she's earned pretty much every MVP honor in the book that you can, except an Olympic MVP. So she's a player that I would never want to face on the other side. And to me, Italy has the best chance of at least moving on to the gold medal match, if not winning it all. So, you know, whatever draw we get, I'm hoping that Italy is nowhere near us. Hoping it's, you know, potential Poland or Brazil situation. But that's a team that is very fine-tuned. They played pretty much their entire starting lineup all summer. So they've got those connections down and they are just rolling right now.
Yeah, I agree. I wouldn't
agree with that, Juliann.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to see Italy anytime soon. I think that they've had a rough go at it in Olympic runs. But this one seems like they're hungry. They're focused. This is a team that's been together for a while now. And they know each other really well. That connection that they have, and like Emily said, Paola she's unreal. I've played against her and many times, and it's really hard to play against her when she's hot. it's hard to beat. So I would say she's the best player, best opposite, hands down in the world. And their team across the board, I think, is just very experienced. They pass the ball well. They run the middles well. Their middles are very technically sound, good blockers. Their outsides are very good. And then you have Paula. So, and their libero is arguably the best libero in the world, also hands down. So I would say that I see them going for gold. I think Brazil's good when they're on. I think they're a hard team to beat also. Poland could be tricky. I'd rather pull them early though and see if I think that we could match up well with them. And so yeah, it's tough. You know, China's been playing pretty well. Serbia has the ability to take over. You know, they also have a crazy opposite. So yeah, it's tough. It's cool. It's a great time for volleyball.
I would not want to play Serbia again.
No, they probably want to. Yeah, they'll come back with a vengeance there. I think they definitely felt that they missed out on that match, but it's an amazing time for volleyball. I think it's some of the best volleyball I've ever seen in the world, with just all of these amazing teams. So it's cool. But you know, let's go USA. Like we have the opportunity to defend that gold medal, albeit as a little different circumstance this time with our team. I feel like last Olympics, there was just a little bit more dominance coming into it, and we weren't number one in the world coming into this. And so there's a little bit more of a back against the wall, but that's a cool spot to be in too. You know, we have to go in with that mindset of like, hey, we have nothing to lose. Everyone's good. We just have to put everything we have on the court, because that's the way that they're going to do it.
Yeah, I think when we talk about how deep this field is too, if you haven't watched anyone except the U.S. play, you got to turn on some of those matches, you know, especially in the quarterfinals and semifinals and on. Like, these teams are so good and they're so fun to watch. I mean, there's players that you'll just absolutely fall in love with and want to keep watching. So if you haven't, definitely make sure you're checking those matches out, because they're so fun.
Definitely. And Juliann, because you've played in multiple countries professionally, do you notice a different style in the way that they practice and the way that each league is run?
Definitely. You know, in Europe, and I played in Italy 3 years, 3 seasons. So, you know, volleyball is a gift there. They are very talented. Their coaches are very talented. There's a lot of technique, a lot of skill involved. And, you know, I would say that the practices anywhere you go are going to be different. The culture is different. When I played in China, we practiced for long hours a day. When I played in Japan, we practiced long hours a day, very minimal time off. In Italy, I'd say there's a similar style to how we train. And maybe that's because we've had girls go over there many seasons, come back, we kind of see what works, what doesn't. I think that's honestly, not to segue, but that's the beauty of Love and this league in America, is that we get to keep our kids, our athletes in America. We have been going over to other people's countries to play volleyball and giving our knowledge and our best volleyball to them, and then coming home and having to play short summer with our national team. And, you know, I think for many reasons, that's why we didn't win gold, because we couldn't get our team together and be cohesive. But now we have this opportunity to have all of our athletes, our best athletes, stay in America and play together, and our coaches be there to, you know, give feedback and help. And I think it's just a great time for our country in that aspect, because all these other countries have been doing that. Italy, they don't have to go anywhere, right? That's where the best volleyball is being played. Turkey, same thing. And so it's kind of like we're giving our knowledge and wisdom to these other countries when we're going overseas. And we learn stuff too. 1000%. We take away a lot of things. So that's just a cool exchange. But I do think it's a great opportunity that Love is here. So.
For sure. And the Love Austin team is going to be really interesting to watch, because you have 8 Texas alums all under Jared Elliott. So I think they have a pretty good idea of how they all play.
Yeah, it's really, I've been talking to some of the girls, and we've been saying it's every Texas fan's dream team. Obviously, there's not everyone is on the team that is a fan's dream, but eight of us from different generations even, I think it's a pretty cool opportunity. I've always said that man, I wish I could have played with her. Man, I wish I could have played with her, you know, as I've graduated and gone on and seen the talent that has come in. And now I get to do that. And I'm like, this is nuts. So yeah, what a cool thing.
Yeah, it's so fun. When you said the generations, that's something that sticks out to me. I mean, there's players that I'm sure, you know, grew up watching a lot of those players, now get to play with them, you know, coming as Texas alum. That is, you know, that's a dream for all these players. And I can't even imagine how excited they are to finally, you know, get in the gym with it all.
Yeah, for sure. It's going to be so fun to watch. Now, for both of you, you know, you have interesting paths because you were competitive volleyball players. Obviously, Juliann, you will be back playing volleyball competitively. But, you know, Emily, you became a broadcaster, and Juliann, you took a break. You pursued music, hosted a podcast. So for both of you, what was it like stepping away from this sport that you devoted so much time and energy and love to?
I think that it was needed for me. I didn't know when I stepped away that I was going to come back to the sport. So originally, when I did my EP and wrote music, I actually was injured. So that was a really cool outlet for me because I was wanting to come back from injury. I hurt my knee and had some time off, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this thing that I have been wanting to do for a really long time. I love music. It's a passion of mine. There's, you know, no pressure here, like to be anybody, you know, a superstar. I'm just, you know, I want to do this. And so that was a really cool outlet. But when I stepped away after I had my first child, I didn't have any thoughts of coming back because I just thought once I have kids, I'm not going to be able to do it. And I talk about this a lot when people ask me what it's like to be a mom and then also play volleyball. I've done it. I was a first-time mom with one kid, played in Italy. I told you guys about that experience a little bit. And so when I stepped away that second time, thinking for sure I'm not coming back because it's not possible for me. It doesn't feel like it would be a good experience. I don't want to put my family through having to move and go overseas and like, you know, where will they go to school if they get older? It just like the whole thing just made me feel more like I need to sacrifice my love for this game and my desire to keep playing for my family. And so in doing that, I took up coaching, which I absolutely love, which is a funny story because I was like, I'm never coaching volleyball. Like I will do private lessons, but like team coaching a high school team, like, are you kidding me? I'm so above that. Literally. Like, I know that sounds bad, but I think like that was the thought process. Like, there's no way I'll enjoy that. Like it's, you know, and so then when I decided to do it and I was like, okay, I'll just give it a try for 1 year. I was obsessed with it. And I was obsessed with the way it made me feel and how giving to these kids who, you know, are so eager to learn and then they do it right and they see their excitement and see the approval that they're looking for from me and like just this whole thing. And also when you're in a tight match as a coach and you're making these decisions and you're like, dude, that feels like, and there's adrenaline there. And I didn't realize that could actually translate. So I kind of got my fix of competitiveness through being a high school coach for the past 3 years. And, you know, that was kind of like what the path that I took. And I always knew that I wanted to either mentor or give back to the sport that has given me so much, you know, with camps, clinics, now coaching a team. And I think on just a broader scale, just like having that one-on-one mentorship and giving back to, you know, kids that can learn from my experience and knowing that my experience wasn't for naught. Like I did something cool and now I can turn it around and give a little bit back. And so, yeah, that's kind of like what it felt like to step away. I never missed playing because I feel like I filled it with the coaching aspect and the mentorship aspect. Now that I'm working out and playing and getting myself ready to play again, there's this like fire burning that I thought had gone away and I thought that would just disappear. But I'm like more eager than ever, especially as a mom with like a little crowd of 3 watching my every move. It's like, there's so much motivation there, but there's also no pressure. to like be perfect. Whereas when I was younger, it was like, I have to be this in order to get this, and I have to do it this way. And if I don't, then I'm missing out on my chances to do, you know, something big. Whereas now it's like, I've done this and I still get to do it. And I'm like, this is awesome. I'm so excited. And even the younger girls coming right out of college or maybe playing their first or second year pro, it's like, I love that. I want to help them. I want to be like the mom of the team, and like whatever you need feedback wise, like obviously I want to step on the court and be competitive, which I'm gonna, but
Yeah,
it's also this like team feel of like, how can I give as a teammate, because I'm just in such a different place as a mom and having done this for a lot of years now. And so, yeah, that was long, but that's how I feel.
I love that. Because I have 2 kids and I play in just like an adult beer rec league, which I love my team and we have so much fun together. But when I'm able to bring my kids to watch us, even though it's adult, you know, rec, I like love it because they get so excited and I'm like, I have my little cheering
Yep.
squad and I always ask my daughter, I'm like, do you want to play volleyball? Yeah. And I'm like, next generation,
Yes.
let's go. It's so fun.
Yes.
What about you, Emily?
Juliann, it's really cool too to hear about the perspective change that you had, you know, after you had your first kid and then obviously after the twins. Like, one, I can't even imagine coming back to playing now, and I'm, you know, have done nothing of the sort. I'm just out of shape. But thinking about getting back on the court is so impressive. And but before I get mine, I kind of just want to know from you, like, how do you possibly balance all of that? What was it like initially starting out when you started working out again? Like, what the heck did you do? Did you have the kids in the gym with you?
I mean, yeah, it's funny because in the beginning, when I first was cleared to work out after the twins, they came into the gym with me in their strollers. I would put a little fan in front of them. They would take a nap. And when they're newborns, they sleep a lot. So it was easy. Once they started getting bigger, became more of a challenge. They would be walking around the gym while I was like doing power cleans, and I'm having to like throw the weight down, run, make sure they're good, come back. So it's definitely a challenge. My mom moved here from San Diego, California. I'm a single mom, so I'm doing this. I mean, I have a village. I mean, there's no way I could do it, even with a full family, you know, a partner in this. It would be so difficult, but I have a village. I have my mom here. My stepmom lives down the road from me. Family, friends. I have the best friends, which we do call ourselves the village, that they have kids. All my son's age, they all have kids. And so it's just been incredible to see. And I'm not one that asks for help. And so when I did become a single mom, I kind of relinquished that surrender to, you know, whatever ego or, you know, independence that I had, and said, no, I need help. And everyone in my village came running, and they're there for me. They know that, you know, I'm going for this crazy dream and I'm doing something insane. And they want to be there and support it. And so I'm very, very lucky. And, you know, Carly Lloyd, she's a childhood best friend of mine who's going to be playing on the LOVB Austin team with me. She has a child. We grew up together. We played club together and played a few years on the national team together. And so she's my very, very best friend in this entire world. And I know her coming here and us having each other, being moms together, it's like just another added person to my village and me to hers, so that we can support each other. So yeah, I don't do this alone. Some days I feel like this is stupid and I should not do this. It's too hard. But most days I think, wow, this is so cool that I get to wake up every day. I get to push myself and my kids get to watch, and I want to bring them along as much as possible.
That's so strong and powerful. I love that.
I mean, it's just so inspiring seeing you out there, seeing a player like Carly Lloyd. I remember when Alicia Glass-Childress came back to play for Athletes Unlimited, that was exciting. And I remember a few years ago too, Shayla Castro came back after having her twins and played in AU as well. And it was so cool to see the support system that she had for like 8 weeks in a bubble around all these other athletes. And just the strength it takes to come back, and like how much of an inspiration you guys are to not even, maybe former athletes that are coming back, sure, but just in general, I'm sure moms around can say, okay, well, I can go back to work. I can do all these things that maybe I didn't think was possible a few years ago. When you see athletes at the highest possible level doing it, it's like, well, we can all do anything, which is so cool. And I'm so glad that, you're now coming back and feel so confident and feel that drive again, because it is hard when you stop playing to find that drive. And I think I was similar in terms of that competitiveness and like adrenaline rush. That was something that I always really craved. And that's what I loved about competing. I always knew that I wanted to get into broadcasting. I never wanted to play professionally, nor was I good enough to. I never wanted to coach. So I knew I wanted to stay around sports. I didn't know I wanted to be around volleyball. That kind of just happened on its own after I graduated and started to get into the business. But for me, I think the hardest part of the transition was just not having a team. Because from the time, I'm like 3 or 4 years old, I was on teams, and you're given friends, you're given someone who tells you what to do, you have a planned schedule. And then when you stop athletics at such a high level, you're like, one, who am I? Two, I have to like actually go talk to my friends, hang out with them. I can't just see them every day, and all these people that, you love so much and you're in a locker room with. And I think that family aspect was something that was hard in the transition out of like, okay, I got to figure out kind of who I am, what I'm doing. And you just miss that competitive nature with people that, you're grinding with. And I think you learn a lot about yourself and really bonding with others when you're on a team going through really hard times, whether it's, a really tough loss, or you just had like a really hard practice and had to run sprints or whatever it is. Those are the things that I think bond people. And so for me, it was like, okay, how do I make those bonds, and what can I do now that I'm not playing anymore to continue to feel that? And so, I think that was getting closer to family and friends that maybe I didn't have enough time to while I was still competing. But and on the other side of it, just that competitive nature. Whenever I go into a game now to call it, to me, it feels like a game day. Like I'm waking up, I'm doing the same routine. A lot of times I'm like eating the same foods. I prep the same. For the most part, I prep a lot how I scouted in college as well. So I feel like I get that competitive side from calling games. Like when the lights go on, for me, that's showtime. And, I have to put on my best performance. I've had a lot of practice before, but that's game time. You want to put your best foot forward and, give these athletes and give the game and the teams the recognition and the credit, and just do a good game because they deserve it. So for me, it's been fun to fill that competitive void with something that's really similar, but on the other side of the game.
Yeah, both of you two have such inspiring stories, because I feel like, you, even though Juliann, you went to go play, Emily, you decided not to, just this idea of no matter where you're going, when you do decide to step away from whatever sport you've been super competitive in, it is finding a family. It is finding that group of people that you can keep you motivated, keep you excited, keep you hungry to do whatever you want to do. And so you ladies are amazing and an inspiration. And I hope whoever's listening to this podcast understands that, and also gets like a fire underneath them and is excited to go out and do whatever they're going to do because they want to be like you guys.
Oh,
I mean, it's true. Like Juliann,
yeah.
like you can do anything, truly. Like I think if you have a goal, you probably need to set it higher because you can achieve that. Like you should always have something you're looking forward to. And truly, like I always think the sky's the limit. And if you're going to put in the work for it, you can get there. So, for me, it's always been about staying hungry, staying humble, and working hard. So I think that's the biggest thing. And I think that applies to pretty much any capacity of or industry that you're in, whether you're an athlete, whether you're in the corporate America, it doesn't matter. If you have that drive and you continue to stay humble, stay hungry, stay kind, like you can get anywhere.
Wise words, Emily. And so now, before we end this interview, I hope you guys are hungry for a little volleyball trivia, because I have a little volleyball trivia game for you.
Oh no.
Oh gosh, here we go.
I don't think the questions are that
I'm
hard, but they're
sweating.
definitely like the historical trivia. Let's see what you got. And if you have to have a multiple choice, just let me know. I'm happy to throw in the multiple choice. But let's see how you do before, we give in some options. All right, first question.
I'm going to get embarrassed here.
What year was volleyball introduced to the Olympics in Paris? So multiple choice. Your options are A, 1924, B, 1934, C, 1944, or D, 1954?
A, 1924.
Yes. 1924.
I was gonna go D.
So volleyball was played as an unofficial exhibition event at the 1924 Summer Olympics. Pardon my French here, at the Jeux de l'Enfance.
Oh, that was pretty good.
Which is an accompanying youth sports
Kinda
competition. Oh, thank you. So that was when it was introduced. So 100-year anniversary right now. Right? Yeah.
Dang. So that was exhibition, right?
It was an exhibition, yes. It wasn't an official sport, but that's when it was introduced. When and where was the Federation of International Volleyball established?
Dominican Republic.
I know it's currently in Switzerland. No idea where it started.
I don't either.
I'll go Switzerland.
I'm going to agree with her because I was thinking of the Pan American North Seca. My bad.
The answer is actually France.
Oh.
France in 1947.
No.
They must have loved that exhibition game and ran with it.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
This one's a little tough one, I think, because I only know of it because I read a book. But you might, I rather feel like if you haven't read this volleyball history book, you might not know. But who invented volleyball?
A man.
Like who is there a person or like a country?
Yes, there's one person.
I can't remember his name.
I'll just give you the answer because I didn't write any multiple choice and it's going to take me a while to come up with the fake names. The answer is William G. Morgan, and he originally called it Mintonette.
I knew that. I mean, I knew I had heard it. I had read that before, but
you say he was American?
He's American, yes.
I know there's a club Mintonette in
that's right. Yeah,
like Ohio area, so I know that.
Love it. It's good knowledge. It's good background. Well, next question. Where did volleyball originate? So we know it was made by an American named William G. Morgan. So where did he invent it? What state?
Okay, well, the Club Mintonette is in, well, technically like Indiana, Ohio.
I'll give you a hint. It is not that.
It's not that.
It's like, is that it's not either? Okay, well then.
Close.
Maryland.
No. New York.
No, Massachusetts, actually.
That was the birthplace of volleyball. What the heck?
He invented it because I think it was, I can't remember exactly what it was. I'm trying to remember this book that I read, but it was something like he was looking for a sport for the men who would come home from work that they could like participate that wasn't basketball, because basketball, it was like too sweaty for them. So they wanted something like that. It was a little easier. And so in the Y they created volleyball, and the rules were insane. I remember it was like, I remember when you served, if it didn't go over the net, your teammate could help it over, and that was legal. You played 9 innings. It wasn't played 9 innings. So sometimes the scores were like 54 to 30 or something like that. The 10-foot line was a little different, but you were not allowed to step in it. It was kind of like the kitchen and pickleball. All these crazy rules. I feel like maybe I should do like a video on how insane the original volleyball game was. Yeah,
wait, that's actually kind of cool. Also, the fact that there's just like so many other sports thrown in is fun.
It was fascinating. All right, next question. When did women's volleyball become part of the Olympics? So when did it officially become an Olympic sport?
40.
When working back,
had to be later.
I was gonna go way later. I was gonna go like 60s.
I'm gonna go
maybe 70s.
I like where your brain's at.
Yeah, I'm gonna go.
I was gonna guess 72 only because of Title IX.
I mean, I don't know the Olympic years back that far, but somewhere in the 70s, I would agree.
So you were closer with
64.
The 60s. It was 1964. Yes,
okay,
Tokyo,
60.
1964.
Dang it!
I was thinking like, I remember being on the national team and having like not having to know some of this stuff, but like we talked about things like that. So 64 sounds,
that makes sense.
All right, and here's one that I think you guys know. This is the last one also. What was the most watched NCAA championship in women's volleyball?
This past one between
Nebraska,
Texas and Nebraska.
That is correct.
Woo!
Averaging 1.7 million viewers.
We got one.
Opposite NFL Sunday. And it represents a 115% increase from last year's championship matches viewership of 786,000. So well done, ladies. That was really good.
Yeah. You learned something new.
And I hope you learned a few things
anything
too.
In this era. I was ready to go.
And before we say goodbye, I just want to really quickly plug our social media superstars, Kayla Stapleton, who played volleyball at San Diego and professionally overseas for 3 years, and Devin Newberry, who played beach volleyball for UCLA. They'll be posting Volleyball 101 on our social channels at Love. That's at LOVB, to help those who are new to volleyball understand the rules, positions, and everything in between. So make sure to follow so you don't miss out on that. Well, ladies, thank you so much for being part of Serving Pancakes, for talking about the Olympics, your backgrounds, your lives, all of your badassness, because you ladies are amazing. And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. This was awesome. It was nice to get to know you both a little bit more too.
Thanks for watching Serving Pancakes. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. You can also listen to the podcast version on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.